My name is Luke Jensen. I'm a student at the University of Washington, but I started work at the Port Townsend Air Museum in 2002 as an 8th grader. I was 13 years old at the time. My family and I have been visiting the Jefferson County International Airport since I was a small boy. We used to come up here and eat at the Spruce Goose Cafe and then go up and enjoy the town of Port Townsend. And one day we were up here at the Spruce Goose and heard about the new Port Townsend Air Museum operation that was happening over at the other side of the airport. We decided we'd go over and tour the facility, not even knowing that it was a youth mentorship program at that point. We met Jerry and several of the other volunteers that were working that day. One of them gave us a really fantastic tour showing us some of the restoration work that was happening on that particular day, some of the flight operations that were happening on that particular day, and it was an absolutely stunning experience to see what the museum was working on, what the potential opportunities were here at the museum. About 6 months later, I started working here on the weekends and kept doing that all the way through my senior year of high school and my summers following that. Once again, I met Jerry the first time I ever visited the museum. Immediately, it was evident that he's a man who's serious about what he does. I knew that there was not going to be any joking around at this facility, and he didn't pretend that there would be. But I also knew that it was a great opportunity to learn about the way the world really works when your work affects your own safety. As with many aviation museums in the United States, the purpose of the Port Townsend Air Museum on the surface is to preserve antique and classic aircraft. We take them from basket case status all the way up through flying status, so it's a restoration program. What makes us unique are two main factors. First, we restore our airplanes to flying status, believe strongly that our entire fleet should keep flying, so our volunteer staff is part of the pilot staff as well. Flight training comes with the program, and that's one of the unique factors of the Port Townsend Air Museum. Perhaps more importantly, this is a museum operated almost entirely by youth volunteers, meaning the majority of our volunteers are between 13 and 18 years old. What that means is that it's at the stage when you're first legally learning to fly. Nobody has much flying experience. They come in here and they learn from the beginning in the antique aircraft. Not just flying, but restoration. They learn responsibility, they learn maintenance and technical skills, and they learn some managerial skills as well, because the museum building itself is operated by the youth volunteers. So it's like drinking from a fire hose for the first year or two. You learn everything you need to know about flying, about maintaining, about the operations of the museum itself, and the entire time you're surrounded by the oil, the leather, the smells, the sounds of antique aviation. You can't ask for anything better as an aviation lover. Okay, coming out of high school, I knew that I wanted to stay in the field of aviation. I never was completely sure that I wanted to be a professional pilot, make my career as a pilot, but I knew I wanted to keep flying all the way on through the rest of my life. Now, the question is, how do you go about doing that? When I was early in college, I knew that I was interested in aviation engineering. The field of aeronautics is well regarded at the school where I go, the University of Washington, and it's a well-developed program, so I decided to study engineering. It brings a whole new perspective on the aviation picture. I'd learned a certain amount about practical aviating. I'd learned how to actually control the airplanes, how to build simple airfoils, simple control services, and make those things safe. But when you get into an aeronautical engineering program, you start digging into the science, the physics behind it. You start looking at much more complicated aspects of that same problem, and it opens up the picture hugely. Now, what makes my experience unique from most of my classmates at the University of Washington is that they don't come with that practical experience. They don't know what's important to make the airplane easy and a joy for the pilot to actually control. They just know how to make it scientifically correct. So that's where this experience came in directly useful for me. I'm one of the 4 students in my class of 50 that has a pilot's license, and I'm able to have an intelligent and thoughtful discussion that correlates actual flying pilot experience with the design of airplanes, which has been hugely useful. More importantly, though, is the mindset that the Port Townsend Air Museum sort of embedded from the beginning, which is one of responsibility, one of getting the job done, taking responsibility for your own actions. And in the college environment, that has helped me excel, and it has helped me take a leadership role in my department at school, and hopefully moving forward from there in life in general. While I'm traveling for the next year, I'll be leaving the University of Washington in June flying to Ecuador on June 30th, and then traveling for 6 months in South America, followed by 6 months in Southeast Asia. And in all honesty, what I do when I get back is a mystery to me, like it is to everybody else. I think that will sort of reshape the way I think about the world to a large enough extent that it's difficult to commit to any lifestyle at this point. I can tell you that I'm going to be in the field of aviation for the rest of my life, whether it's in design or in flying or as an armchair bystander. But one way or another, I'm going to stay involved in this wonderful world of aviation. I've met nothing but great people in any aspect of it. So I'll be continuing along that path. Some ideas that I've had: the private space industry is going to be taking off in the next 20 years. We already have some examples of privately operated space lines. The Virgin Galactic comes to mind first. That's going to need an entire fleet of spacecraft and the pilots and engineers to operate them. As far as I can see, that's going to be the most exciting and dynamic area within aviation over the next 30 years, and I would love to be involved with it. I knew that I was going to be part of building this actual building. That was the exciting thing about being here from the beginning, is that I was here from the fundraising stage all the way through the groundbreaking and the public opening of this building. This plaque in particular was, I knew, going to be mounted somewhere towards the entrance of the new building, and it was going to pay homage to the fact that most of the work to build this building was done by the volunteers like myself, who were youth volunteers throughout the entire period, who were my peers, who were my friends, and who had been through this experience with me. I had done some writing for the museum already, some website blurbs and things like that, and so Jerry knew that I could put together a piece of writing like this for a setting like that. He asked me to go ahead and try it one more time, just try my hand at it. The goal was to try to represent the fact that not just the adults who make this possible, but the students themselves understand the significance of what we're doing. We understand that it's a unique program, and we appreciate what the program does for us moving forward. The first line is about why aviation holds such a special draw for almost everybody in this country, in the world. It's a fairly universal interest, and I'm convinced that's because everybody has an innate dream to fly. Everybody's fascinated with the concept of soaring through clouds and being like a bird, and that's been a unique possibility for us in our lifetime over the last 100 years, and especially over the last 50, to do that affordably, cheaply. And so people start to take it for granted, but not really. I don't think anybody really takes aviation history or aviation technology for granted yet, or they will anytime soon, and that's why an aviation museum has a greater draw than, say, a tractor museum or a car museum to a wider audience. I think it's because you can go into an airplane museum with no technical understanding or knowledge of what's going on in that airplane museum and still be fascinated by the machines with wings in there, the oil, the engines, the history that you read about, and just know that it's the latest and greatest of technology that allows human beings to have wings, to be like birds, which is, yeah, it really does mean that to me, and I think it means that to a lot of people. If you're in the Port Townsend area anytime soon, make sure you stop by and check out the Port Townsend Air Museum, built by students and maintained by students, and preserving aviation history throughout the Olympic Peninsula. Again, my name is Luke Jensen, and thank you very much for watching.